I want to go ahead and welcome Mr. Tommy Paradise.
Hello, fellas. John.
Oh, nice professional microphone, Tom.
Oh, I know what I'm doing. This isn't amateur hour here, like your performance in the playoffs last year.
No, sir. Oh.
And we are live. Let's go. This is the Dos Podres podcast. I'm Major J. Did it again. Sundance Kid right there. Still waiting for the no finger guns. We are here covering the Boston sports scene with plenty of fun and antics mixed in along the way. Sundance, what you sipping on?
I am sipping on none other than in a Beekman cup. I am sipping on some Tazo mint green tea. This is fresh. This is not expired, and it is definitely hitting the spot at this moment in time. How about you, Major J?
You think at this point you would have converted me to tea. I'm back to the coffee with some Baileys because I need to be oh so warm for the show tonight.
Sure.
Delicious. All right, so we've got a lot to cover tonight. We've got the Celtics obviously coming off of an interesting week. Maybe they're back on track. We'll talk about that. We've got the Patriots taking care of business in Carolina. Another big win on the road and coming home to take on the Fighting Mayfields this weekend. We got another round of NFL picks, which at this point we should just quit. And then we're going to close it out with a new segment, a new fantasy segment that we're going to debut this week, which is should be a special one. So everyone should stick around for that one as well. Should be a lot of fun. But yeah, let's go ahead. Let's kick it off with a little Celtics and talk about the week that was. So they've only played a couple times since our last show. The first of which, those games, was a walk-off loss at Dallas to Luka Doncic and his ridiculous falling away three-pointer, which reminded me somewhat of a shot that you and I saw in person.
We did.
Years and years ago.
Vinsanity.
One Vince Carter. Yeah. So, that was a tough loss. They actually came back to tie that game up and actually thought they were going to take it. And then Dallas just Luka's Luka. I believe that what preceded that was actually a boneheaded play, if I remember correctly, by Marcus Smart, who the C's had, if I remember this correctly, tell me if I'm wrong. I believe the Celtics had a foul to give. Marcus Smart commits the foul to give, but then essentially gives Dallas the possession with the last shot, essentially, whereas they wouldn't have had it. Without making that foul, it was going to force them to take a shot before the clock was up because of the shot clock. Commits the foul for no reason. I don't believe Udoka was calling for it from the sideline. And commits the foul. They get side out 14 seconds on the shot clock. At that point, there's only, 7 or 8 seconds left on the game clock. So you've now went from the C's potentially having the last shot because the shot clock was winding down to, okay, now Dallas just has the final shot, which led to Doncic making the three-pointer. I still don't understand what the hell he was thinking. Marcus Smart usually is a smart player, hence his namesake, but that was one of the more boneheaded plays I've seen in quite a while.
What did I do wrong?
There was no reason to make that foul.
Right. So upon further investigation, it turns out that Udoka told the players in the huddle, don't foul.
Oh, okay.
And unfortunately,
Marcus didn't hear the word don't?
That's the story, actually, is that Smart did not hear the words of the coach, don't foul, that he had already started to stray out onto the court to get ready into position. As this happens in the NBA, guys, they break the huddle, they start to walk out onto the court, and the coach yells out, hey, remember, no foul, don't foul. Right. Smart did not hear that. And so the message was lost there. So that
Slightly.
was the Dallas game, right?
Right.
Now on the flip side, you've got last night's game, which was fantastic. I mean, that's
yes.
Listen, that's
That
a signature win. You've got no
100%.
Jaylen Brown. We took down the Toronto Raptors, a solid basketball team. They've really given the Celtics fits over the past couple of years.
I mean, this is the team that came in a few weeks ago and punked the Celtics on their home court. So this was a nice little, turnabout is fair play win. It was nice. And the fact that they went into half up 16 and they won 104-88, held that lead through the entire game. No late blowups. Nothing
fantastic.
Crazy.
Jason Tatum had a triple-double, but really one of the more near triple-double. I apologize. I think he fell 2 assists or 2 rebounds
Yeah, it
shy.
was. I think it was right.
But either way, it was a great team stat. Triple-double infers, what a wonderful individual statistic. But, truly a triple-double means everything is involved. I mean, you're moving the ball, you're crashing the boards, and you're scoring. Give Tatum credit where credit's due.
Absolutely. Assists are part of the triple-double, and that's
big,
given off the backlash from the last couple of weeks with the Marcus Smart comments, etc. It was nice to see him dishing.
Yeah, even nicer for this game. Schroeder did not have a great game, and I've been telling my 2 sons Schroeder is going to be, the guy that you are praising. You're going to buy his jersey by the end of the season.
Yeah, I believe you even went to the salon to get blonde streaks put into each of their hairs, but hairs.
So that hasn't happened yet, but Schroeder hasn't made me look good yet. He had a terrible game.
He did drop 20 though. I mean, he didn't play well, but he still dropped 20. So which to an extent we need to cover the Jaylen absence at this point, which is going to be 1 to 2 weeks with a
correct. Two of the bigger takeaways for me in this game, aside from Tatum getting a little more team oriented and Schroeder not looking great, two things I took away from this game, really important. The development of Time Lord. Holy cow, Robert Williams III. I mean, this is really crazy. He's finally blossoming into the player that Brad Stevens thought he would be when he drafted him, 3 years ago. And then they just gave him, like a $48 million contract extension, really based on next to nothing. It was really
potential.
It was potential.
We think we're going to pay you what we think you're going to be worth, right?
He was really impressive last night. I mean, he was aggressive. He was crashing the boards. He was blocking shots left and right, really impacting the game and disrupting what a lot of Toronto wanted to do. The other thing I took away, from this game was Romeo Langford, definitely a solid young player. You can see why the Celtics have resisted overtures from other teams when trying to make a trade. Langford has consistently come up as the first piece that another team will ask for in return. And he is a nice player. He has a nice outside shot. He moves around well on defense. I'm really impressed with Romeo Langford. I was a little surprised to look at the standings today and see where the Celtics rank in the Eastern Conference right now. It's not very impressive. If Udoka does his job, this team should rise up to the 4th, 5th best team.
Agree. Right. As of now, they are, after last night's win, they're 5-6. Last in the Atlantic, 11th in the East. But again, it's so early. I don't put much stock into the standings. I mean, I look at the Atlantic Division, and I still wonder, all right, which teams are for real? I mean, one team that I wonder about is the Knicks. I'm watching the Knicks, and they've got me kind of curious as to how legit that young talent could be. You got Derrick Rose, kind of playing on a revival of sorts. He's all over the place, but they've got some talent there, and I just. But it's the Knicks, so
Thibodeau. I've always felt that Thibodeau was a very good basketball coach. He's a New Britain guy, New Britain native. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, he is. He's a solid NBA coach, and I do expect the Knicks to stick around this year. I anticipate they're going to be right there with us. I think we're a baby step ahead of the Knicks, and I
I
think
think they have some
there.
good young talent. I think it's going to start shining through. Obi Toppin, I mean, quickly, some of those guys.
RJ Barrett, yep.
RJ Barrett, especially. So along the same lines that you were just talking about with Schroeder and then being impressed with Langford, a guy that I am kind of impressed with. Not to say that he's necessarily doing a lot, but I think is actually really filling in his role well is Josh Richardson. I think he's actually kind of really filling that swingman role effectively. On the flip side, I'm starting to wonder a little bit about Naismith. He was, in theory, he's supposed to be great. It's still early. He's young, etc. But he's supposed to be that sharpshooter, and he's finding himself falling down the depth chart. And then Peyton Pritchard, who I actually really like. I'm not sure how much of that is an indirect result of Schroeder and how much of it is play, but he's finding himself falling down the chart as well. And I'm curious to see if these guys are going to start to find their own roles as the weeks and months roll onto the season, or if we're potentially looking at a third unit with these guys.
Yeah, Pritchard, when he burst onto the scene, I thought to myself, okay, he's a nifty player. He's a nice little player, but he doesn't flash at all.
Right.
And
he serves a purpose, fills that role, but nothing that's going to wow you and say, oh, wow, okay, we need to get this guy more run.
He looks like he belongs in Hoosiers. I have to be honest. I mean, he rarely looks like he belongs out on the court in the NBA. And I felt that way last year. It was, hey, Pritchard's a nice player. I'm not surprised to see Udoka come in and basically just say, Pritchard, Schroeder. Yeah. I'm going with Schroeder every day of the week.
Right, absolutely. And Schroeder showed that last night. Again, he didn't play great, but the fact that you're probably not going to get Pritchard to drop a 20 in offensive help when you're down Jaylen Brown.
Right.
He's going to be there to take care of the ball, just manage the floor, occasionally throw up a three. Not a bad player per se. You need guys like that, but he's not. Like you said, the last season started, and I really thought, I was like, okay, I actually saw more out of him than I expected so early. I'm like, oh, this kid's a polished player. But then as the season wore on, I think we're seeing now too, that's probably
his ceiling.
That's his baseline is his ceiling. Exactly. I don't think there's a next level per se. We said Jalen's out a couple weeks, 1 to 2 weeks. We're saying we'll see if these guys can keep stepping up around him. I'll tell you another guy that and we've said this before, who I've always been enamored with, and I love the fact he's back and he's showing it again as Al Horford. Just what he can do with that offense in terms of spreading the floor, because he can pass and he can shoot a three. I think he's a perfect complement to Time Lord. They knew that. And I think when he's on the floor, it helps create so much space on the offense. That's what they need.
If they don't have Al Horford, I think they have 2 or 3 wins right now. I have to be, and I don't think he is, the superstar he used to be. He's not the scorer he used to be. Right. But to your point, the degree of complementary player that he is for this team,
exactly, he fits what that team needs.
They absolutely 100%. Need every last ounce of Al Horford. He puts them over the top in that way.
I agree. So I've been really happy with him. So so this team. Again, we'll see. They only had 2 games coming this week. They're 5-6 now. In terms of the upcoming, a weird upcoming week. So they've got they're actually got Milwaukee at home tomorrow night. You know what? We'll actually bring up the schedule and take a look at that.
Yep. Yeah. So tough game. Yeah. We've got Milwaukee coming.
We got Milwaukee tomorrow night at home at least, and then they go on the road, take on Cleveland on Saturday, and then Monday they take on Cleveland. So interesting quirk to the schedule. They're in Cleveland for 3 days, 2 games. I'm not sure I'd wish that on anyone. Right? I don't think I'd wish having to go see them play in Cleveland on anyone.
Is that right? Is that schedule right? They're in Cleveland for a 3-day layover for 2 away games in a row.
That's what the schedule says on the Celtics website. So I'm going to assume it's correct. I think a lot of the leagues have been doing that.
Really?
hockey was last year, basketball now, and baseball in terms of, I think it saves on travel. It made more sense last year with travel restrictions, et cetera, to try to keep
You're right.
teams.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting. Essentially a back to almost back in Cleveland. Then they go on the road, take on our old friends, the Atlanta Hawks, in Atlanta next Wednesday. And then by the time we roll into next week's show, they'll be taking on the Lakers at home next Friday. So we got 4 games coming up this coming week. I think that game at home against Milwaukee, that's gonna be a nice little test to see. All right, where's this team shaking out, especially no Jalen, and then 3-game road swing, a couple games in Cleveland. I'd love to see take 2 out of 3 on the road there, but
Cleveland's a surprise right now, so I'll take a split in Cleveland, quite honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'll take a split in Cleveland. Then I want that game against the Hawks, which, with Trey there, we'll see. But yeah, I think overall happy with this team, the way they've responded over the last week to 10 days. Need to carry some momentum, grab some wins, go over 500, and then we will start to see how things shake out. All right, I think that wraps up our Celtics talk at this point. So Nance, before we move into talking to some Patriots, I think we just need to give everyone a reminder. Everyone at home watching us on YouTube, please like, subscribe, turn notifications on if you would. You'll never miss a show that way. We're on the road to 1 million subscribers before the end of the year, and we just want you to be there to be part of the journey. So Nance, I don't think it's too much to ask. What do you think?
Nor do I. We are on our way. Only 999,672 to go.
Give or take. Great. All right. That's going to take us into what we want to be talking about. Those Patriots. And before we start, we did just gloss over it, or just skip right past any Bruins coverage. Apologies for you hockey heads.
Sorry.
We had something written up, but we're going to move right into Pats because we are itching and scratching to get to talking some Pats here. But what a nice win in Carolina.
Yeah, baby.
With a little shaky to start, but that defense, granted, against a not even NFL caliber quarterback at this point, the way he's playing, Sam Darnold, but nonetheless,
injured. He's playing with one
and
shoulder.
injured.
Yeah, he's playing on one shoulder.
But being real as well, he wasn't playing well even before he was hurt. So
sure, fair. Yeah.
But man, that defense was coming and coming and coming. And I was pretty impressed. Again, Darnold not playing well per se in general, but I'd like to think that defense also had a hand in that. Christian Barmore is an absolute beast.
Yeah. So Matt Judon, Christian Barmore just continue to disrupt quarterback play over the last few weeks. I got a chance to hear Damian Woody on some ESPN radio this morning, and he actually commented that, and sure, he's a former Patriot, but he's a pretty objective former Patriot. And he said for his money, Patriots are a top 3 defense in the league. And you can't really argue that over the last 4 weeks. I mean, they have really
it's crazy how they
ratcheted up the intensity on the defensive side of the ball, getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, they look a little more spry. I thought it was interesting seeing Hightower essentially being assigned to cover McCaffrey at the backfield a lot. That was an interesting assignment, but okay.
That's okay. Hightower's you know what? Again, I gave him crap a couple weeks ago, but he is seemingly shaking off the rust that his opt-out year, created. He's really getting back into shape, seems to have again turned up his level of focus on the field. Van Noy, looked pretty good. And JC Jackson, Again, I don't put J.C. Jackson in the same category as Ty Law, Stephon Gilmore.
Not at this point yet, no.
I think he's probably more a Malcolm Butler, right? He's probably a little bit more, maybe, I don't even know that I'd put him as high as Asante Samuel, the dad, senior.
Senior.
So but my goodness, I mean, ball hawk. Totally, got to give him that label. I mean, the guy is at the top of the league with interceptions, and other quarterbacks are looking at him when they're coming in to play the Patriots, saying, "I'm going to have to really be careful with this guy on this side of the field."
Yeah, ball hawk is a great way to put it. He takes advantage of mistakes. He's not necessarily, not to say he's not a good cover corner,
right?
But he knows how to read and he knows how to make that right jump when he needs to, and he takes advantage of those spots without over pursuing, without getting caught. And they need that. I mean, I think the one thing to, I don't want to say a positive, but with Gilmore being gone, it's at least allowed J.C. Jackson to not necessarily be in his shadow per se. I think everyone around here and Patriots fans knew what they had in him, but now there's a bigger spotlight on him because he has to be that guy, and I think he's truly getting that credit now because the focus is on him, especially with this secondary being in shambles beyond him right now. It's him and a bunch of rotational guys, and I think he's truly getting the attention that he deserves at this point. And this game said it all. I mean, what do you have? 2 picks? One was a pick 6. Is that what it was?
Yes. That's exactly it. On the offensive side of the ball, not Mac's best game, but there's really no worst game for Mac Jones. He's not costing the Patriots any wins or losses by his play, and certainly he's helped them win games. But my point is, he hasn't lost them a game, with a horrendously bad decision.
The mistakes have been minimized to the point.
Not
even minimized, basically non-existent for the most part.
It's maybe in the last few weeks, maybe a pick in the first quarter that turns out to be meaningless. But beyond that, he's again making the right decisions. He's holding onto the ball when he's getting hit. But he's making the smart reads, and the running game looks really good. Unfortunately, both of our running backs, we got beat up last week by Carolina. Thank you very much, Panthers. We kicked you in the teeth, and unfortunately, you guys kicked us in the teeth on the way out the door. Both of our running backs have concussions. Gunnar Olszewski, our return man on punts and kickoffs, he took a brutal hit.
I was listening, and in the commentary, Zoe was just almost.
It was bad.
Himself. Yeah.
It wasn't a dirty hit. It was just a football play.
It was a football play.
I'll be honest. I don't expect him back until December. I really don't. I mean, the hit that he took was just absolutely brutal. The running backs, you really couldn't see it during the games. It almost seemed like, oh, geez, does he have? Did he get a rib injury? Like when Stevenson went down, when Harris went down, it was just kind of like, what's that? What injury is that? I was shocked to learn that both of them had concussions. They're not out of the concussion protocol. We are on Thursday night. It's not too late, but it doesn't look good. And if you're the Patriots and you know how important the running game is, you're going to sit those guys this week. You're going to say, let's lick our wounds and see if we can beat Cleveland without our best running backs.
Well, it's funny you say that because I think, and I'll have to check the record books, but we may be heading into the first NFL game in history that involves 2 teams, neither of which are going to be fielding a single running back.
Right.
Because we now have
Cleveland's guys are banged up too.
Right. We've got Harris and Stevenson on the concussion protocol, like you said. So in theory, you're looking at essentially Brandon Bolden and JJ Taylor filling in there. On the Cleveland side, you've got 3 of their 4 running backs on the active roster in COVID protocol now because Nick Chubb, Demetric Felton, and John Kelly all tested positive for COVID. I do know Chubb and Felton were vaccinated, so there's still the chance, because they're vaccinated, that they can clear that with 2 negative test within 24 hours in time to play on Sunday,
Mhm.
but that's still going to be really tight. So that really just leaves Donis Johnson, who, when he filled in a few weeks back for Chubb and Hunt, only went for 126 yards on the ground, no big deal, and looked like the best player all over the place. But this is obviously a different element. We'll see. But regardless of who's back there, obviously if it's Chubb, we know Bill. That's who Bill is going to key on to take out of this game, because I think he has no issue whatsoever with trying to take Chubb out and dare Baker to beat him and beat them.
Sure.
I don't think there's any issue trying to do that as well, because realistically, Cleveland, they're beat up everywhere too, even in the receiver core. We all know the OBJ situation. Beckham, who just signed with the Rams tonight. Interesting. Jarvis Landry's still banged up. I think he's going to play, but he's been limited practice, legitimately limited throughout the week in practice. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been an interesting find. He's made some really big plays for them, but he's not necessarily a go-to receiver. So they have their tight ends can play between Hooper and Njoku. So it's going to be interesting. But in the end, that team, everyone knows that team is built start to finish out of the run game. I think if Chubb is active, he's still going to make it tough on them. If it's Johnson, nice player, can do some things, but he's not Nick Chubb. I think it's going to make things much easier, at least on the defense, to handle. I just think it's interesting that both these teams, that essentially the Patriots have turned into essentially a mini Cleveland Browns, in the sense that they've been really trying to work that power run game with Harris and Stevenson when Stevenson's been active, et cetera. And now you've got all these guys potentially out of this game. It's like, where does this game go in terms of what direction? How do these offenses even look when you've essentially stripping their identity to, just taking the best players out of that identity and relying on the backups to kind of fill in? I'm sure both teams will try to start the same way they would normally start. I'm just curious how that's going to unravel as the game goes on.
Sure. It should be a really fun game to watch if you like passing, because if you like passing and, wreaking havoc defense, because Cleveland's defense is very good, so much as the Patriots. I expect both quarterbacks to be running for their lives throughout this game. I really do. Yeah. Running backs, you better pick up your assignments. I think it's going to be an air show. I really do. I will save my pick for our pick segment, but I'm definitely encouraged the way the Pats are coming, into form right now. And to hear Damian Woody say they're a top 3 defense kind of tells me that, geez, what I'm seeing every Sunday is pretty much what a lot of other people around the league are probably seeing as well, which is, man, Matt Judon has taken that defense to just an obscene level that you did not expect.
Yeah, and I think you actually touched on something I actually do want to talk about as well, is the issues potentially with the pass rush on Cleveland with Garrett on one side and Clowney on the other. Clowney's still been more of a run stopper, but he can absolutely get to the quarterback as well. I think when we saw in this Carolina game, the only, I don't want to say weak link, but head scratcher a little bit was the issue with the tackles. We've talked about this where Mac, if there's any criticism about Mac, it's that he may hold the ball a little bit trying to find that right receiver. And I think they've been having a little issue on the tackle side as far as letting the pass rush, some of the pass rush get to Mac between Burns and Reddick in this Panthers game. I'm just curious to see if they are able to shore that up a little bit against Cleveland as well, because those guys are, if they're in the backfield as much as Carolina was, at least to start that game while it was competitive, we could really see some issues if you don't have the run game to build off of that as well. So I'd be curious to see if they're going to time even more slant screens, et cetera, to get the ball out even quicker to not even deal with that pass rush, or how they're going to if they're going to be using, imagine that, using Jonnu Smith more to block. Wow. That's never happened. Or what they're going to do as far as helping out each side to get to that, to keep that pass rush off Mac.
Well, don't forget, N'Keal Harry is a fantastic blocking NFL football player.
I may have heard that somewhere, actually. His blocking skills are top notch.
So on a serious note, Brandon Bolden is a fantastic veteran running back. He's not going to blow an assignment.
Right.
JJ
They trust
Taylor
him.
is it JJ Taylor.
JJ Taylor.
That's a little bit more of a question mark. We'll find out.
The fact that they've kept him around, we're going on maybe 3 years now. They picked him up off waivers, and they've made it a point to hold on to this kid for going on 3 years now. There's got to be a reason. If Bill's keeping somebody around that long, he must be at least fundamentally sound and not blowing things up, because otherwise he, at best on the practice squad. But the fact that he's been around and active as much as he has, a good sign.
Right. Did you mention Trent Brown? Is he?
I did not mention Trent Brown.
Or is he possibly due back this weekend? I feel like we would have heard a lot more about that, but I feel like that's been teased out for the past couple of weeks. Like he's getting closer. He's getting closer.
I'd have to look. I haven't seen or heard a thing about him.
Okay.
So I think it's almost with this. I think everyone's just going with the assumption that until he is ready to actually be back, he's just not around and he's off the face of the earth.
Okay. I'll research it.
All right. I don't want to say this is a statement game, but it's going to go another step towards building legitimacy of this team.
Trent Brown returns. So to your point, that's a big possible answer. I apologize for stealing your thunder there. You are correct. This is. Aren't all of these though kind of the next statement game? To
the next game's always the next game's always the biggest game, right?
But look, no, you bring up a great point. If the Pats knock off Cleveland, and move to 6-4, right?
Yeah,
they'll move them to 6-4. You're feeling pretty good about. We're a long ways off from January, but you're feeling pretty good about playoffs. I mean, you're feeling as if, we can get to 10 wins. Once you get to 6 wins, now you kind of feel like, we can get to 10, and 10 is typically a good benchmark for getting into the playoffs. So
especially now with the extra game.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think this is absolutely a big game. I'll save my pick for our pick segment, but I like the fact that Trent Brown is coming back because you mentioned it. The Patriots still got to do a better job protecting Mac more consistently.
Yeah, and I think they can control that a little bit as well with we talk about the run game, but essentially running up the middle, getting between the tackles to kind of nullify the edge rush. Again, it goes back to I think Hightower's going to get tested as well by the Browns run game. Again, we talked about him. Has he been a step slow, etc. He's been coming back around. We mentioned it before. I don't want to talk too much about it. OBJ, I'm glad we don't even have to see him and deal with him on the field for this game because that just would steal way too much attention, unfortunately. Maybe not by us, but by anyone who's broadcasting the game at that point. One question I do have before we kind of move on is, can we total up either annually or total costs across the total contracts, the amount of money that's being wasted on Johnny Smith and Nelson Aguilar, because it's getting to the point where it's obnoxious at this point.
Sure. I listen, we're about the midpoint of the season, right? So pretty decent time to bring that up. Who's a bigger bust for me, Aguilar or Jonnu Smith? I have to say Jonnu Smith, and I hate to do it because I want to like him, yeah. But he's been banged up pretty often. And honestly, Hunter Henry was supposed to be the tight end that couldn't stay on the field. He's stayed on the field for us and caught touchdowns.
Right.
Jonnu Smith was supposed to be a game changer. I mean, certainly no Gronkowski, but when we signed him, he was really the first big one off the board that people just said, oh, look at that shrewd move by the Patriots. This guy is going to come in. He's going to catch 65, 70 balls. He's going to transform the offense again. And we haven't seen it. At least Aguilar comes up here and there. It almost seems like McDaniels has to set aside 17 hours in the work week to formulate a game plan for Jonnu Smith and work him in, for certain plays. I would say Smith has been a bigger disappointment than Aguilar based on expectations. I didn't have much expectations for Aguilar.
Well, I will say, and again, having Trent Brown back might give us some clue on the Jonnu Smith situation, because I do believe that they've been keeping Jonnu back to block upwards of 70% of the time. Is that indicative of the state of the line without Brown and the downstream effects of that, where they want to have him as an extra blocker on either side, what have you? Now that you get Trent back, Trent, may take a week or two to get back in the mix, et cetera. But once you actually start to have these guys healthy, especially Brown, does that now free up Jonnu to play more of a traditional tight end role, whether it be in line, split at some point, or whatever, to actually become somewhat of a viable receiving option? I don't know. I'm curious to see over the next couple of weeks how that plays out with having potentially a healthy line, back in full strength, maybe not needing him to block as much.
Hey, Trent Brown can't hurt the Patriots. He can only help them. So we'll find out on Sunday.
All right. So we'll find out. We got the big game Sunday afternoon. And then there's going to be a quick turnaround going to Atlanta on Thursday after that. So there's going to be no rest for the weary. All right, Sundance. I think that wraps up our Patriots coverage for the week, which would take us into our Week 10 NFL Padres picks.
Touchdown.
Or, as we know, before we go into our picks for the week, we need to reflect on the week that was, our Week 9 picks. We're going to go ahead and bring those up and try not to cry. So yet again, we finished the week identical 5-9 records, which puts us at identical season records of 60, 58-1. Which, yes, if you're doing the math at home, that is a 504 win percentage. And again, to quote Sundance, just be over 500. So, yes, we are still both just over 500. I don't know where to go from there at this point. It almost makes me not want to bother. However,
So, I mean, it's really cool. Come on. In this, this sports universe this year has just been so crazy. Of course, we're sitting with identical records at the midway point. I don't expect the FanDuel Sports royalties to start coming through anytime.
We're still waiting on Aquafina. So I think until Aquafina officially gets on board, DK is kind of holding back and saying, you know what, we're going to let this play out before we go all in on the Dos Padres.
Well, bring on the picks for this week.
All right. Let's go ahead with our picks for the week. So as we have on in the background here, Baltimore is at Miami. I actually had taken Baltimore giving the 7.5. You took Miami. That is 3-3. With 2 minutes to go in the first half, Baltimore is now going to a fourth down because every receiver on the Ravens is dropping every ball that Lamar Jackson is throwing, which is not good for my fantasy team, which we may be looking into a little bit later. Little hint there. All right, so going to our first game on Sunday, 1:00, Tampa going to Washington. Tampa giving 9.5. Sundance, you can lead this one off.
Okay, so you get into this point in the season where teams are a little bit banged up. I have no intel on Tampa nor Washington, but I kind of like Washington in this game. I can't explain it. It's just an intuition. I'm going to take the Redskins. All those points in the home team, I'm going to take Washington.
Okay, well, I am not. I am going to take the Bucks coming out of the bye. I think it's flame on for Brady and company, even potentially again with Antonio Brown. He did shed the walking boot, but that's not quite enough because he's still limping around. I saw some video and it did not look promising. So it doesn't matter with this team at this point. I think the Bucks are, light years ahead of Washington. I think Washington is well coming out of a bye, but I think they're on the downturn. So I'm going to take the Bucks, giving the 9.5. Next game, it's one we just were talking about. We alluded to a bit here. We're going to give our pick. It's the Browns coming to New England. New England giving 2.5. I'll leave this one off. Not much to say here. I am going to bite my lip, hope and pray that we have a single healthy running back, and I'm taking the Pats, giving the 2.5.
Okay, so I am absolutely. I'm actually not. I'm going to take the Patriots to win, but only by 1. So I'm going to take Cleveland here. I do think this is going to be absolutely a shootout, and I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I see this game somewhere around 34-33. So I will go ahead and take Cleveland with for the points, but the Pats are going to come out on top.
All right, fair enough. I just personally don't have any faith that Baker is going to be able to come to Foxborough and do enough. But that's fair. It should be a tight game. Should be a good game. All right, so it takes us into the next game on the slate. Buffalo going to the Jets. Buffalo giving 11. Sundance, what do you got?
Okay. Jets have shown a little bit of life, and Buffalo just looks like crap. My goodness, losing that game 9-6. Was that the final down in Jacksonville?
In Jacksonville, yes. 9-6.
9-6. Buffalo is just tough team to figure out. They'll figure things out in this game. I'm going to take the Bills.
For those exact reasons, I'm taking the Bills as well. I like what I've seen from the Jets. I think Mike White will potentially be back at quarterback for this team. But I doing what they did, even to come back and make it an almost backdoor cover that game against Indianapolis. Buffalo's defense is not Indianapolis' defense, despite the issues on Buffalo's offense, like we saw against Jacksonville. That defense is still playing well, still legit. I even with they being on the road in the division, I think Buffalo can come in. This could be a get right game for them, so I'm definitely going to lay the points there as well. Next game, Atlanta going to Dallas. Dallas giving 8 points. I am going to take this one first, and I'm going to take Atlanta. I'm going to take Atlanta getting the 8, only because it's at the 8. I think they're playing, I don't expect them to win, but I think they're playing well enough. And the Cowboys did some Cowboy things last game with getting absolutely trounced by Denver, of all teams, who was up, 35-0 at one point before Dallas made it even somewhat respectable with a couple of late touchdowns. I do think Dallas can and will win this game. I think Atlanta's playing. They're doing enough here and there to kind of scratch and claw and stay in games and get some wins. I don't think they can do enough to win this game. I think they can play them within a touchdown. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Falcons with the 8.
No, I'll take Dallas all day. I think Dallas bounces back after a really, just poor showing for them. But a lot of that, I think, is Dak trying to just shake off a couple weeks of rust. Right. I think Dallas wins this one going away. I'll take the Cowboys.
All right. Next up, we've got New Orleans traveling to Tennessee. Tennessee is giving 2.5. Sundance, what say you here?
Tennessee's the home team. I like New Orleans, but they're just not the same team that they were earlier. I expect New Orleans to make the playoffs. They'll sneak in, but I like Tennessee at home in this one.
All right. I'm actually going to take Tennessee as well, giving the 2.5. Despite no Derrick Henry, they showed some moxie, even fine. With just a ragtag bunch of running backs. Went in and smacked around the Rams of all teams on the road last week. So I don't see this as being a kind of a trap game after that win. I think New Orleans is just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Offensively, Trevor Siemian, okay at best. If they go to Taysom Hill, new wrinkle. I don't know that they have enough receivers to get things done. Tennessee can still just do enough offensively, right? I just don't see it happening. So Tennessee minus 2.5 for me. Next up, 1 o'clock, Detroit going to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh giving the 8. I don't know. I already took too long thinking about this. Pittsburgh -8. I'm done with Detroit. I think we are collectively done with Detroit. You're done with Detroit until the last 3 games of the season. I believe you're contractually obligated to pick Detroit the last 3 weeks, but until then, you can go any way you want. At this point, even with it being at the 8 is a little tenuous for me, but I'm all set with Detroit at this point. Even with Ben's noodle arm, we're going to go ahead and give the 8. Take the Steelers.
This is a home game for the Steelers?
Correct.
I hate the Steelers. I really, really dislike the Steelers. But Detroit has let me down, a little bit too much. And so I am not going to prolong it. I will take the Steelers.
Okay. All right, that leads us into now this is a sexy game, if we can call it that. Jacksonville going to Indianapolis. Indy giving the 10 in this divisional matchup. Oh, Sundance, what do you think here? We do know. What have we said about Jacksonville? What's Jacksonville?
Yeah, Jacksonville's crap, but they're playing with a little bit more confidence now. I mean, you beat the Buffalo Bills, an AFC contender.
Right.
You're feeling a little bit better about yourselves. Where I struggle here, though, is the coaching matchup. Frank Reich is a far better coach than Urban Meyer. That said, I'm going to go against my better judgment. I'm going to take the points and the Jaguars on the road.
Yeah, you can count me in as being on the Urban Meyer dumpster fire bandwagon tour here.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the 10 points here as well. I think they can parlay that win into playing, again, divisional game. 10 points is a lot. I think Jacksonville has shown enough where, and not to say I'm not impressed by Indianapolis, but I'm not overly impressed by Indianapolis, despite their drubbing of the Jets last week, even at home. So I'm going to take the points with Jacksonville. All right, that takes us to the 4 o'clock slate. We've got Carolina going to Arizona. Arizona giving the 10.5. I'll go ahead and take this one first. Let's see. You essentially have Carolina with no quarterback whatsoever.
Except Cam Newton.
Like I said, no quarterback whatsoever. And then you have Arizona, who may have a quarterback either in Kyler Murray on a bad ankle or Colt McCoy. It still amazes me that's a real name. Yeah, I'm still taking Arizona. I think Kyler's going to play. And frankly, I don't know whether it's PJ Walker or Cam. There's no way it's going to be Cam that starts on Sunday. PJ Walker, one and done quarterback. I can't see them mustering enough in Arizona to keep this, even within 2 possessions. I'm going to go ahead and take the Cardinals. So who do you want to take?
Sorry. I'm watching this Dolphins game, man. This is a great game. Apologies, Kyler and Cam, but Jacoby Brissett just threw a strike on the run. You took Arizona, right?
That's not a catch. Yeah, I took Arizona.
Yeah. So Cam Newton does come back. Does he play in this game? Probably not.
There's no way.
He
can't play off the street in 3 days.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to take Arizona as well.
All right. Okay, next up, Minnesota going to LA, taking on the Chargers. Chargers giving 3 Sundance. What do you think?
I think the Chargers win this one big. This is one of those mid-season games that things just kind of fall into place for you. And Minnesota is just far too inconsistent. So I'm going to take the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chargers as well. This is almost like a flashpoint part of the season for Minnesota. And I feel like this is where enough things have not gone their way where as a team, guys start to be like, okay, this is just not happening. The way they've lost games all year, these overtime games, last week's game against Baltimore. Now you have, not to say the Dalvin Cook stuff is going to be a distraction, but it's just one more thing to throw on top of things. I expect the Chargers to come home and lay the wood. So I think this could be a double-digit win for the Chargers.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Seattle going to Green Bay. This could be a fun game because you could have the return of Russ. And if Rodgers is able to clear protocol in time for this on Saturday, this could be a fun game. We got Green Bay giving the 3. I am going to so much. This is a game that so much depends on the quarterbacks. Same as Carolina and Arizona. I'm gonna say there's no way in HE double hockey sticks that the league, the Packers, anyone allows Aaron Rodgers not to play this game on Sunday. I don't care if he is COVID positive. He's playing. Packers -3.
Okay, I'm going to actually take Seattle. I'm going to take Seattle with the upset. I'm going to take Seattle with Russell Wilson leading them. This is going to be one of those games that, Seattle is just a team that you can never count out until the last week of the season. Right. And I could very easily see this being a statement win for them and everything kind of getting back on track. Pete Carroll said it, a couple weeks ago. We need Russell Wilson, plain and simple. The team is just not the same without him. I think Seattle comes in. Seattle plays well on the road. I'm going to take the Seahawks.
All right, upset special right there. You heard it here. Okay, next game is going to be Philadelphia going to Denver. Denver's giving the 2.5. What do you got here?
I'm going to base this, purely on home team. If it's in Denver, I'll take the Broncos.
Okay, I am actually going to take Philly, get the 2.5. Not based on anything specific. I still think Jalen Hurts is in real life football is not playing great football, but he's doing wonderful things in the fantasy world, as some people are aware of. That's getting a little hint to what is coming up in a few minutes. I'm going to take Philly partially because that's just the way this season has gone. Like we've talked about it before. I feel like they cannot get a handle on this topsy-turvy season. We'll take Philly because why not take Philly on the road in Denver? Of course. Why wouldn't they take this? So Philly, not only to get the points, but also to win. That's my upset special. So that takes us to Sunday Night Football. Kansas City going to Vegas. Kansas City, despite everything we've seen from them, is still actually, even on the road, giving 2.5. I'm going to go ahead and take the Raiders, getting the 2.5 points at home, and I'm actually changing my upset special on the fly. I'm absolutely taking the Raiders to win this freaking game because the Chiefs at this point. That team is off the rails. They can't figure it out offensively. Their defense is a dumpster fire. I think the Raiders can absolutely smash them at home. So I'm going to take the Raiders.
Interesting pick. Only the line here makes that an upset special. I mean, let's be honest. The Raiders, pretty good team. Kansas
City. It doesn't count. You want me to go back to my original pick, Philly? Okay, fine. Okay. I get where you're going.
You can have two upset specials because you're special. I'm actually going to take Kansas City in this one. Okay. I like the Chiefs to get right here. I actually am going to call this as the turning point in the season. I have to say, I think Kansas City starts to get right. And I actually think Buffalo, I know we're not talking about Buffalo right now, but I don't think Buffalo is the team that they were last year. And I see them I see these two teams they're going to start to go in opposite directions, even though you don't really have a feel for either one right now. So I'm going to take Kansas City.
All right. Interesting. Okay, so that takes us to our last game on the slate, Monday Night Football. The Rams coming off of that crazy upset loss at home to Tennessee. Going to San Francisco, Rams giving the 3.5. What have you got here?
I can't figure out San Francisco at home, on the road, Jimmy G, not Jimmy G. I have to go with the Rams. They're just obviously they're a better football team, but they just seem top to bottom put together on all levels, coaching, roster. I know OBJ's coming. I actually think that's going to help them a lot. So I'm going to take the Rams.
Yeah, I'm taking the Rams as well. Even again, you're given the hook off the 3. That's always a little bit dangerous on the road in a divisional game. But when it comes to the Niners, I know Kyle Shanahan thinks that team is better than their record is. I think they're maybe a little better than their record is, but not much at this point. They can't. It is not typical San Fran defense. They can't really stop the pass right now.
Yep.
Things are just not clicking. Not to say Garoppolo hasn't played terribly, but he's been what I think everyone kind of figured you'd get out of him until he's keeping that seat warm for Trey Lance anyway. Until Lance comes in and gives that offense a new dynamic, I think they're a below average team at this point. I don't necessarily think the second half is going to improve it. So I'm going to look to see the Rams kind of come back off that loss and take this one on the road. So Rams giving the 3.5, and that basically closes out our Padres picks for the week. So let's see if collectively between the two of us, either one of us can finish above 500 for the week, which would then mean B, we don't have the identical same record on the season like we have had for I don't know how long. Or we could both finish 8-7 and still just keep going along.
Just be better than 500. One game over 500 is crazy. Better than 500.
And again, anyone who is watching or listening wants to follow along, the link to the shared Google Doc is in the description below. If you want to go ahead and take a look, test yourself against us, and make sure to let us know just how terrible we are compared to you and everyone else in the world. All right, that takes us into our final segment of the show. Is going to be our debuting Fantasy Funhouse segment. We've been doing a Fantasy 5 for a few weeks now. That's been fun. It's been interesting, where I've kind of been putting my 5 players that have had strong feelings on one way or the other as far as picking up, etc. We're going to do something a little bit different. We are going to start this segment and see how it goes, where we kind of peel the curtain back a little bit and take a bit of a deeper dive into a private league, a home league that I run as commissioner, and kind of take a look at the goings on in that league, the personalities, the moves, etc., and like I said, pull the curtain back and let people kind of take a look at what's going on in the weeds with this stuff. All right. So just some background, and we're going to go ahead and pull it up here. This is the Not Yo Daddy's Fantasy Football League. It is actually fantasy football's hottest home leagues out there on Yahoo. There's a long waiting list. Some B-list celebrities are even on it to try to get into this league that have been there for a few years now. It's a hot commodity. We do what we can, but we still try to keep it under wraps and not let it blow up too much, because the media exposure might get crazy and everyone becomes a celebrity, and we can't have that. So we go ahead, we run this with a cast of characters. It's a 12-team league. It's been going on in one incarnation or another for going on about 25 years now. It started in the 90s under the moniker of Not Yo Mama's Fantasy Football League. Prior commissioner couldn't handle running it anymore. I took it over. I didn't want to see it go away, become defunct, so I took it over. Rechristened it the Not Yo Daddy's Fantasy Football League. We've made some tweaks, make some changes. It's humming, and now it's the hottest place to be in fantasy. So, as you can see here, we are 2-division league, 12 teams, 2 divisions of 6. The division winner goes to the playoffs, gets a bye. Next 4 best teams from there gets in. We've set it up, actually, if anyone who enjoys or follows soccer or the other football, take a note from this, would be we have a relegation element to it. So essentially, year to year, if you don't make the playoffs and you are not one of the 6 best teams, you are now relegated to the Not Yo Mommy's division, as you see here. Again, this division's been christened after the name of the old league. So essentially, if you can't hack it into the playoffs, you are now toiling down in the bottom 6. And we keep the playoff teams together each year, the non-playoff teams together each year to go ahead and try to have some semblance of equity in terms of the play and management. So it doesn't necessarily work out every year, but it's a fun little element in there and kind of fosters even more competitiveness throughout the season. So this is, again, it's been going on, this incarnation since 2009. It's been fun. We've had a number of crazy seasons. We've had a couple of three-peats, myself included, back in the 2012, 13, 14 era. Haven't seen a championship since. We also have had a more recent three-peat, which was up until last season, from my good friend and fierce rival, Zero Fun John, who we just so happen to have as a guest on the show tonight. We're going to go ahead and bring John into the show.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Zero Fun John.
What's up, Zero Fun John?
Well, hello, Sundance, and hello, Major J. By the way,
great to have you.
Look, it is great to be here. I want to say, pull back the curtain. This is cosmic stuff, dude. We're going a little further than that, actually. You want to talk about like the interplay of life and fantasy football. I'm not trying to be sarcastic here.
No.
And yes,
no,
we are
you never
fierce
are.
rivals. And by the way, I knew what I was buying into with Jalen Hurts. All right, running quarterback.
There's the
I'm
the
cheap.
illusion.
All the good running quarterback taken. I wanted that bum. So, anyways.
Well, let's start off with on a high note. So, as I was alluding to earlier, you are coming off of, you are the league's second three-peat champion. You won 3 seasons preceding this past season, so that was quite a feat, to say the least. You are commemorated on the league trophy for forever. You have a nameplate for all 3 seasons, a trophy that unfortunately we can't see right now because it's in neither of our possession. It's with Dastardly and Tommy Paradise.
Such a little rascal.
But so coming into this season, we talked about this kind of on the side. Give us just a synopsis, like just the state of fantasy for you. How are things going? Luck. We talked about this all the time. The luck and injuries, as far as being factors more than ever. Just talk about that, how that affects you, your team, emotionally, how you manage that.
I walk in the woods and I wander and just wonder why anything means anything. That's how I handle it. But on a serious note, if you will, we've talked about that. You know, like week 3, I was like, I feel like I'm throwing darts. I was. Well, going back further, we've talked about, many of us have talked about, like, just look at the running back position, for example. Bell cow, right? Well, that doesn't make sense with what coaches actually have to do. So they have to keep talented backs healthy. It's data, logic. Use more than one if you have it. So that's not news, but my goodness, between throw COVID in, injuries, strange things happening, like why I had Kenneth Gainwell in, and of course Jordan Howard as the star. I think we've all been there. Like why I didn't.
I'm actually bringing up your roster right now, so we can take a look. Yeah.
Yeah, and I left James Conner on the bench against, I think, you in a league, and but you know, it's landscape. It's like, I'm gonna get deep on you here. The only thing really consistent in life is change. And it's no different in, obviously, the greatest sport of all, fantasy football. No different. So, you know, following the logic, you know, it's like a roller coaster. I don't know how else to put it.
Well, you certainly are getting deep. And you know what? And the thing is, John, as you get deep here, turns out it looks like we, just to hold the presses, we actually have a surprise impromptu guest running into the show here. And I'm going to go ahead and add this person. Oh, look.
I cannot believe
it is
this is the most vile betrayal to bring this cheater. I don't know. I don't know how he cheated. I don't know what he did with Yahoo. Look at it. There he is.
Folks, this is all right, everyone. I just want to go ahead and welcome our reigning, defending Nacho Daddy's champion. He is the co-host, actually, of America's greatest wrestling collectible show, the Run-In Podcast. I want to go ahead and welcome Mr. Tommy Paradise.
Hello, fellas. John.
Nice professional microphone, Tom.
Oh, I know what I'm doing. This isn't amateur hour here, like your performance in the playoffs last year.
No, sir. Oh, no, sir, champ.
Great
Listen,
segue.
when you get to 4 straight championship games, son, the champ, excuse me, then we'll talk. But
Okay.
actually, we're talking now. So
Well, I think that's a great leading point here. We can lead right off with what happened last season when we saw the transition of the championship off the three-peat from John over to Power and Glory, Tommy's team. Now, I think if I remember correctly, that came down to one player in particular. Either of you care to comment on who may or may have not had something to do with?
Well, may
John,
I?
go right ahead.
Champ, may I? Oh, thank you. So, Josh Allen he was taken out earlier in the fourth quarter and had 2 touchdowns dropped in the end zone. I'm going to go with Josh Allen, who helped me get there. And then he just took the soul out.
Tommy, what's your take on what happened there?
I beat his ass.
Okay, there's that other one.
That's it.
So, Tommy, now go ahead and put that trophy on display again for a second. Yeah, just show everybody.
Put it where it's my
wanna
3
go
in a
ahead.
row. That's what
I want to go ahead and get.
I only see 2 in a row on here, actually.
Well,
I'm going to
because
go
he
ahead and
didn't put the
that,
other one
get
on
it
because-
close up. Yeah. That is so. To everyone who isn't aware, we do have a traveling trophy. It does have a nameplate commemorating each year's winner. To the point now where I think we're at a point now because that trophy may not even be fitting of the level of this league anymore. I think we may need to upgrade, but we've been trying to keep it modest. To this point, but we're gonna see where it goes. All right, so guys, let's talk about this season. We're about the halfway point now. I'm gonna go ahead and let's go back to the standings here for a moment and take a look because we're all jumbled here a little bit. And for anyone who's wondering, this is my team right here, asterisk NSFP. That's not safe for pod. So I did change that name just to spare anyone watching or just our show any potential scrutiny after the fact. But John, so you're actually going by one of your other monikers. The Snuggle is Real. Currently 5-4 in the Daddies division, and then right behind you, we've also got Power and Glory, current champ at 5-4. Why don't you guys talk about what's worked, what hasn't worked, what's gotten you to where you are so far, and what do you expect going forward?
Running backs not staying healthy and inconsistency is killing me this year. Also making the mistake of drafting Saquon Barkley. I would like to have a mulligan on that.
I mean, yeah, you'll get it next year, unfortunately. But
yeah.
The fact that I'll be honest, the fact that you're 5-4 after drafting Barkley and what you have or haven't gotten from him is kind of a feat in itself. You and I had a trade after week 2, where we swapped Adam Thielen for AJ Brown.
Yes,
that's worked out really well. Not for me. But I believe I turned around and spun AJ Brown for Stephon Diggs. It's been fine, but it's just, Thielen's been okay for you though, right? I mean,
yeah. He's let's see, I got him after week 2, so 14 points, 6, 5, but then 28, 16, and then 7 last week.
Okay, so solid enough. You've got Julio, who is perpetually on 2 bad hammies. At this point, I don't know how he's not going out in a wheelchair week to week.
I just had this conversation with somebody the other day. What a fall from grace. Like, I'm about to let him go for just enjoy the waiver wire. Because
hold on, I'm gonna get my scratch pad and make a note there. Okay.
Production is not there. 4
No,
points.
you may not even have him this week the way it's going.
Yeah.
You get the dreaded red Q. The
Yep.
red Q ends lives at this point
Yeah.
because when you get that, either see the red Q or you get the little notification on the bar on your phone on Wednesday after Wednesday's practices that you sort of dings, and it dings about 800 times because every player in your team has been downgraded from healthy to questionable. You just said, well, am I going to throw myself out the window now, or am I going to wait until Sunday and do it then?
Yeah.
But Julio has the dreaded red Q.
I feel like he has all season. 4 points, 7 points, 0, 0, 7, 4, 0, 5. And week 2, he got 19.8, but hasn't done shit since then. No touchdowns. No touchdowns. Which, if he were to play, you think he's due. You're actually playing the Owl Farm Militia this week. Justin, I believe that is the team owner there. Well, he's only got 2.7 on for you tonight, so that's helping you out. So Justin is actually second place on the Mommies division, 6-3. John, you are taking on brother-in-law Mike Cush. I'd say that's potentially a positive outcome for you at 2-7 and falling into the category of don't give a fuck, right?
Yeah, but
that's basically where Mike is at.
He's one of those competitors that now and then, I don't know how, just
he doesn't know how.
Has that week, I'm worried about that. I got to really prep my team up for this one.
You're worried about the law offices of Cook and Cook coming to take you down?
Yes, a little bit. He's pissed.
Cook and Davis. Look, well, you know what? You should be scared. If for no other reason, look who he's starting at quarterback. Old friend.
That's right.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, I noted that. Yeah.
So either one of you guys, what do you think has worked out in terms of waiver wire pickups? Any studs, any guys, any big moves? Even going back to the draft, as far as something that's maybe carried your team at least to some kind of slightly above 500 record. What was your pickup of the year? Was there a pickup of the year either one of you made so far? Halfway point.
Actually, like the only thing that's basically been working is off the waiver, especially is consistent players being able to find. Because I know what I want from certain positions, including people who are in reserve, and it's been pretty easy to find that, unless it's Kenneth Gainwell, and then Jordan Howard gets all the work. But
the Eagles' backfield situation has been. I've learned very quickly after 1 week of Boston Scott that I probably should just not bother myself with that.
I found that out in another league, my league with who's their other running back? I can't think of his name. He's
Scott
hurt right now.
Howard
Miles
and
Sanders.
Miles Sanders.
And then Miles Sanders, who's on IR, which started this whole situation to begin with a couple weeks ago. Yeah, the Eagles, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier too, with just Hurts. Hurts is a fun player to own in fantasy for you, John, but it almost makes you wonder at any point, as they've talked about for weeks now, at least the media is are they going to pull the rug out from under him? And because he's just been so terrible for them in real life. I don't know that you're going to do that and move on to the Gardner Minshew era per se for the second half of the season, but
it's definitely. Honestly, I like, in your league especially, looking deeper in the draft for, like I've had Lamar Jackson really late, Josh Allen really late. So I was kind of hoping with that Jalen Hurts, and I don't know, I agree. It's a mess. But the rushing floor is great, and I'll start him every time because of that. Don't have a better option, but yeah, it's just not the best deep quarterback pick, but that's how it goes sometimes. At least I didn't get Josh Allen.
So for each of you, what's second half of the season is coming up. What is one thing you're looking to do as far as making trades, trying to shore up a position, trying to just do something differently to try to make a move to move in the standings? I mean, you're both right now in actually a good spot. I mean, despite how you feel about your roster, John, you're still in fourth place at 5-4. You've got a tiebreaker on points. Tommy, you've got this. Do you have the sixth spot though in theory? Because the way we work this out, 6 actually goes to highest points. That's not in the top 5. So in reality,
That's
is
not
that
me.
really you? No, it's
No.
actually. Oh, it's not you. It is. We should have changed that name for this podcast as well, but that's all right. Which I believe is Joey Wright at $14.99. So right now he is far and away the 6th seed. So Tommy, you probably have to wrap up some wins here.
Yeah, I'm 200 points behind him. So I've lost 3
So
games.
you're gonna need some wins. You're gonna need some wins. I mean, one path to that is going ahead and just cutting Julio Jones. I'm not sure who you, but I mean, anyone you pick up is going to be positive points in theory, right? So
Yeah, you'd think.
but you would think. John, what's going on with your team here? What are we going to do to kind of hold for?
I'm gonna probably not trade players I like to start with. I have a trade in there now from someone in the league, and it makes perfect sense. And it's one of these very smart players. And it's like, but I trade away James Conner in another league, your league, Tom, because you see how we all roll. Right? Dip into each other's leagues here. But we know who's who. And, so James Conner I want here, though. And just, let's see, he's already got a good role. And then it's like, when Antonio Brown's healthy, love him. He's a wonderful player still. Tom Brady says he's a football genius. So I don't. Yeah, it's true.
And with Connor, in theory, you're going to have Evans coming back at some point.
But Major, what I've got to do is trade for a really rock solid number 1 wide receiver. I got to find that. So
I'll trade you Julio Jones.
I was just going to ask, man.
Yeah. I'll trade you.
So the key being he mentioned rock and solid.
Yeah.
So you might need to have one of those. You need health. You definitely need health. I don't know what's going on with Kittle with the red Q. Kittle with the red Q.
Whole team.
Calf was limited on Thursday. He'll be fun.
I had a great game last week. He was on my bench, but that's
So we got these. I'm curious. You guys have, I believe you guys play each other again next week. Rivalry week set up perfectly for the two of you to go head to head yet again, which could start to help figure out things for a playoff spot. I don't know. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We're about at time. What I'm going to do is, before we go, let's go ahead and either of you, one of you, both of you, want to go ahead and plug. Where can anyone find you on social? If anything, any ventures outside of fantasy football you want to plug, by all means, go ahead, John. Anything you want to throw out there? Where can people find you on social?
Now, forget that, man. I don't want people to find me there. All right,
Right, that's right. You're a recluse.
Yeah, and I mean, I am a musician and all that, but I'm not going to give a shameless plug. I am here for the league. I'm dedicated to it. I'm dedicated to taking.
Wait, you're in a band?
Yes, it's called Neon Fauna.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think Tom's ever been to any of our shows.
Oh,
yeah.
I've been to as many of your shows as you have to mine.
Now that's not true, my man. First of all, you did my wedding, homeboy.
Well, I'm
talking
about my hot trivia action. I don't remember much of your wedding.
I'm not smart. I can't do trivia like you smart. Come on.
You have some smart friends.
That's true.
All right, Zero Fun John, the Snuggle is real, also known as the natural athlete, the phenom. Number of monikers.
Sure.
We look forward to seeing you again in the coming weeks and months. And Champ, Tommy Paradise, where can people find you? What have you got going on?
I host co-host a wrestling and action figure podcast. You can check it out at runinpod.com. And if you are in the Western Mass area, Connecticut area, I host trivia Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings. Pizza Shop, Patty's Irish Pub, and Town Tap Room, right down the street from you, Jesse.
So, what are you trying to say?
Eventually, I'll get down there as well. We don't want to start that conversation like we just had with John. But I have been to trivia before, John. I'm just putting it out there. So
He was in Las
gentlemen.
Vegas on vacation, and he went to a trivia show.
No, he went to one of my trivia shows.
Okay, you guys are on team. I see how it is. All right.
Yeah. We're in
The world
cahoots.
is always against John. That's
right.
That's right. It's all a ruse.
I can't wait to actually listen to this and hear before I came on and hear how negative he was talking about his team and using that reverse psychology stuff.
I think we got you on at the
works.
perfect time before he.
That blew me up, man. All right, that was a betrayal. I loved it.
That's a story for another day. Is John's belligerent use of reverse psychology, and it always seems to work out in his favor. Nonetheless, all right, gentlemen, thank you for joining, and we will be looking forward to seeing you some more in the future.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Major.
Thanks,
Champ.
guys.
Gentlemen.
All right. Well, that was fun. Fun little segment. It was interesting to, again, peel that curtain back.
A little bit of an education, I would say, for myself, a non-fantasy football connoisseur. But John, you could. It was interesting to get his insights for how he navigates, these fantasy football leagues. And it was also interesting to see that Champ really is almost sunk from his pick on Saquon Barkley. And to your point, it seems like he's really treaded water very well based on the fact that Saquon's pretty much given him nothing. And Julio Jones, I can't help but come away from, that segment and really reflect back on what happened to him. That is just off the
He has
rails.
had his hamstrings have been issues for years now, off and on. And he's 31 now. He's crossed the 30-year-old barrier. When you have lower extremity issues that much for that many years, he was a guy, and this is not saying I'm smarter than anyone else. He's somebody I was pretty much staying away from. If anyone who comes into a season already having some kind of ailment, I'm good. Like there are other guys I can pick at that same spot. I believe Tommy got him at a decent spot in the draft. So at any point, anyone becomes a value per se. But the Barkley thing. Barkley was somebody I say I didn't want any part of, but I didn't want any part of him where he was going. He's still being drafted as a late first round pick. There was some optimism coming out at one point that he'd be fine and be able to start the season, maybe miss a game. But with him too, it wasn't even just him coming off the knee injury. He's also had other dings. Right now it has nothing to do with his knee. It has to do with he got stepped on and has a busted ankle from a random play that had nothing to do with his knee in Dallas. So again, it goes back to what we spoke to before. More than ever, it feels like in fantasy football, you are dealing with luck and injuries that are essentially just defining your season more than ever, and you have to find a way to navigate it. And sometimes you're able to, like with Tommy, and be able to navigate. Barkley, you scratch and claw, and you just find running backs you can plug in and just try to get a win week to week and stay alive. And other times it can absolutely sink you, and you move on and wonder if you're going to bother playing ever again, or even the following season. I've heard that. People have voiced that to me before. I can't imagine ever leaving the sport. But all right, that was a fun segment. We'll see about doing some more of those in the future. Again, we have quite the cast of characters in this league that I think we can bring in. They're going to add a little flavor to the show. So looking forward to maybe some more guest spots from the Not Your Daddy's Fantasy Football League in the future. But we're going to go ahead and roll out of here. Next week's show, Sundance, we're going to be coming back with some more Celtics coverage, hopefully talking about at least a couple wins on the road, splitting that weird back to almost back in Cleveland.
Yeah.
As well as the Patriots, Cleveland, Sunday. See how that turns out. And again, with that short turnaround to Thursday Night Football at Atlanta. So that game will actually be on while we are recording next week in theory. So that's interesting. We'll come back with another fantasy segment, probably another fantasy 5, but we'll see. Keep that up in the air. Another round of NFL picks, and most likely not locked in yet, but I think we'll be doing another top 5, maybe Thanksgiving themed with the holiday around the corner. We'll see. We'll see how that shakes out, perhaps. But all right. So as we roll out of here, just a few things of note. If you are watching us on YouTube, please like, subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't ever miss a show. If you are listening to us on the audio side, please rate and review. If you aren't listening to us on audio, want to, you can catch us on your favorite platforms, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Again, as we said earlier, it is all part of our world takeover, our road to 1 million subscribers. We just want you along for the journey. All right. I'm Major J. That's the Sundance Kid. That direction this time. Voguing. Can never get enough of that. We're los Padres. Hasta tus sueños. We